Welcome to Evil Geek. On the program,
Little Nightmares 2. I will show you 16 secrets of the game and give you 18 of my theories. The door that we see in the ventilation above the teacher in Little Nightmares 2 is a door that we can see several times in the mall. We can see that all the mirrors are broken like in the apartments of the lady in the Little Nightmares 1. In Little Nightmares 2, we can see a portrait of a child several times and that we already see in the first Little Nightmares. The glitching remains in the locker is linked to the child from the Little Nightmares comics application. We can also find the story of the child in the hospital, there all the cheese must be thrown away, and the child that we find in the toilet, which is a child that we can see in the comics too. We can often see the portrait of the teacher, but also the portrait of a child disguised as a ghost that can be seen in the comic also coming from the application. The idea of a hairdresser as boss was advanced, but it was cancelled. We can however see several portraits of him in the game. We see drawings of Gnome everywhere, yet apart from the DLC in the second game, they are only supposed to be on the map. We see Six becoming to see sadistic as we progress in the game. That will explain why she is so bad in the first Little Nightmares. We can see a drawing to Six who held hands with a gnome in the room where she was locked when Mono released her, but also a drawing of the antenna which emits a signal. The song the kids hum in the school is the song you hear on TV from the first Little Nightmares, but this song can also be heard at times in the televisions. In the school, we can see the portrait of a girl who looks like Six. Was she in this school? We can see in one of the rooms of the hospital and in the toy store of the city a doll which is also present in Little Nightmares 1 on a shelf of the janitor. You can see a reference to the VR static game by Starzier Studios in the hospital. You can see masks hanging on the wall of the hospital. Many represent characters of the Mo. The suitcase where the giant Six is placed in Little Nightmares 2 looks the same as the one in Little Nightmares 1 when Six woke up. You can see at the end, just before meeting Giant Six, that there is a portrait of her as the giant on the wall of one of the hallways leading to what could be her bedroom in the signal tower. In this room, we can see the portrait behind Six, which looks like the girl portrait found in the Mo, but in Little Nightmares 2, his face is scribbled. We can see several references to the Mo in the second Little Nightmares, drawings, advertisements, etc. One might think that the signal tower manipulates people to make them obedient, but not succeeding. They are gradually replaced by creatures or dolls normally more able to obey. Yet we see that porcelain children are not that wise. The non-obedient children in Little Nightmares 2 wear a hat resembling the hat of the gnomes. In addition, we can see a porcelain child drawing the eyes and the signal tower instead of having a punishment. So I think that the children disobedient turn into gnomes. The gnomes in Little Nightmares 1 may be the children in Little Nightmares 2 who were sent to the moor. Little Nightmares 2 will happen before the one, simply because we see Six getting his yellow raincoat in the second video game. Who owns this apartment? We see photos of the mall, customers who eat in the mall, but also a photo of the lady. We even see adult slippers too. So, does it belong to a client, to the lady, to the Sinman, or as a member of the lady's family, or even the person who shares her life? The mystery remains unsolved. If you have an idea, feel free to comment on it. Maybe Six leaves Mono at the end to prevent herself from hitting it because we notice as the game progresses that she is more and more evil, and at the end we see that she is very angry. As we see Mono becoming the Tin Man at the end, we can think that this one travels in time to remove Six during the game. But we can also think that if Mono is the Tin Man and that time travel is possible, Six could be the Lady of the Mo. Indeed, in Little Nightmares we see Six becoming more and more evil, and we even see his evil shadow in the two, the same that we see in the one when she is feeding. We can therefore think that the Tin Man won't prevent her from becoming the lady. Could this explain the presence of the portrait of the little girl behind the giant Six with a scribbled face? Six, will she start to have trouble with her appearance? Maybe that's why the draws character with scribbled face. And maybe that's why when Six tries to get off the TV, the Tin Man stops her. Mono is a Tin Man because in addition to being seen at the end of the game, we can see that at the beginning of the game he appears when leaving a television, but also he is the only one capable of being teleported by the TV, and he controls their frequencies. So maybe Mono is a creation of the signal tower itself? At the beginning, maybe Six is nice, and Mono and she tries to reach the tower which emits a signal to deactivate the televisions, which turns the population into obedient zombies. But that as time goes on, the signal from the tower influences the character of Six, who becomes more and more evil, and which makes his appetite grow. To the point that she leaves Mono, who becomes the Tin Man, while she goes on the moor. We can think that the Tin Man would be the Hanged Man in Little Nightmares 1. To begin with, a theory had been put forward that the Hanged Man would not have committed suicide since the chair was too small for the person to use it. So we can think that this Hanged Man was killed by the lady too, and even that this person was locked up. That is why we see a mattress and even toilet paper. If we assume that the Silman is mono and that the lady is six, this could also explain why there is an letter near the hanged man and another at the altar of the lady, and even a letter on one of her tables in the DLC. Maybe mono and six are brother and sister or other. We noticed that all the mirrors were broken. Maybe if the humans see their reflections, they will be disconnected from the signal by recognizing themselves. And that's why we killed the lady, the one with the mirror. Mono, maybe, during time travels to try and prevent Six from becoming the lady in the mauve's kimono each time. Six would have dropped Mono because without the bag on his head, she saw that he looked like the Sin Man. The creature on the hospital bed. Is this Roger, the janitor? He is quite similar, no? In this room in Little Nightmares 2, we see masks on the wall, and we found these faces on the characters of Little Nightmares 1. Maybe the creatures wearing masks. Even in the first game would come from this hospital in Little Nightmares 2. In Little Nightmares 2's secret ending, we can see Six come out of the TV. Then we can see their evil shadow appear. Then the shadow of Six looks at the Mo advertisement to attract angry customers. Maybe that's why Six ended up aboard the Mo, because she's very angry. The music box will be a way to calm Six, like a prison created by the signal. The Sin Man could be a rescuer of children. Indeed, we could think that the signal sucks the soul and maybe the bodies, hence the empty clothes that we see throughout the game. And that when we see the black shadows of the children that we find, it would be the children that the Sin Man would have saved from this reality. Bye bye! See you soon in your nightmare!